It's time to get going. It's noon now. Welcome to this session. We have the college immersion programs, and we have speakers: Jason Twede, Associate Professor in Tooele; Jenn Cowburn, Associate Vice President of Tooele; Amanda Plaizier, Concurrent Enrollment Faculty Mentor, also in Tooele; and David Baca, for a lecturer in Blanding. Thank you again for coming, and I think we're good to go to turn it over to our presenters.
Okay, I talk loud, but I know this is recording. So, start this off. I want to show a video that was thrown together, sort of a news story on part of what we did as this program out in Tooele, criminal justice focused, but just as a prelude to what we're going into and what we're going to be talking about today.
Did you hear any gunshots?
I was out jogging and I think I got shot. Can I see ID?
USU Tooele was recently a crime scene, but really only so students could practice their detective skills.
So today was really the sort of, I hate to say capstone, but a capstone part for the investigations course. This is where they did a mock crime scene investigation.
I just turned around and I saw that gentleman over there bleeding on his arm.
The idea behind the summer class is to give students a crash course in a criminal justice investigation, and it's targeted towards students interested in USU, but also students that are already early into their time as an Aggie.
I wanted to find a way for students coming out of high school to have the opportunity to get to know professors, get to know advisors, get to know this campus.
And you may have role players that are just kind of like, hey, this is what happened, and screaming all over here and all that, and then you got to slow things down.
The day started with a short briefing, but from there, the students were pretty much on their own to solve a reported drive-by shooting.
Well, sir, it's Officer Swan with USU Police.
Our victim got shot in the right arm, but didn't see who did it. All we know is that there was a blue sedan, so we just had to walk around the scene and start asking other people questions if they heard any gunshots and try to figure out if the suspect was even here.
Now, can I ask why your shoe fell off, or did you trip, or what?
This is about the middle of the course, and the students have been doing some English and communications work along the way in anticipation for a court case at the end.
In criminal justice, you have to write reports based off of what audiences are going to be viewing it, how are they going to interpret it, understand it.
Hey, ma'am. Hands behind your back, I'm detaining you.
This is the first year of the program, and the university is seeing if they can expand it to other statewide campuses in the future. But the students feel like it's been a good experience so far, like James here, who wants to go into law enforcement.
I don't know, just being there for people when they need it. I mean, cops have been there for me when I needed it, and so just being there for people in their darkest times. And I feel that this program is very vital for, my success in my career.
All right, so that's that. Now we're going to have Jenn tell you everything that video just told you. And I'll say this up front. Ask questions along the way. Cut us off if you want to know anything about this. We'd rather answer your questions than talk about bullet points on a PowerPoint. So please do us a favor and cut us off and say any questions you have. So. Well done on the that was marketing. We had no part in any of that. So.
We were in it.
We were in it, I guess. So that's something.
Thank you all for joining us today. I recognize a lot of faces here and so appreciate the support. I wanted to let you know how this all came about and why we started this program. So I work very closely with the school district, the local government in Tooele, and we identified that a lot of our students coming out of our local high schools felt ill-prepared to start a college career, some of them that inhibited them in thinking that college was a place for them. And so working with those institutions, the city, the county, and the school district, I was thinking, what a great opportunity to have students come in the summer and connect with advisors, professors. So I was very adamant that I wanted these programs to be offered face-to-face so they could understand that you all as professors are people and that they are approachable and that they are exciting and the types of things that you learn that make school different than high school. And so this is what we took a look at to see how we could possibly get them engaged early And we have noticed we have one of the largest concurrent enrollment programs in the entire state. I have over 900 concurrent enrollment students in the Tooele County area. And a very popular program, thanks to Dr. Jason Twede, is criminal justice, and the Department of Criminal Justice is incredibly receptive to ideas and working with us on our campus. So I went to Jason and said, we're getting more and more of these high school students. We're getting more of them that want to be on campus. We're getting more of them. What's something we could do? Because I know you're a lot of fun. Your colleagues are a lot of fun. How do we engage our students on a summer program? So you'll go to the next. So we decided to start with criminal justice. We're also talking next year with data analytics. I know the Harvey Peace Institute is very interested. We've got a lot of different institutions and departments that are very interested in starting a program like this. But we were able to start with criminal justice, and I think it was just the right program to start with. We also are noticing in our community a lack of educated workforce. So the majority of the workforce in Tooele is manufacturing. We need a more robust, educated workforce. So in talking with the county, I was able to secure funding for this summer program in the amount of $75,000 a year for every year we're able to put this together. And what that allows is for students to participate in this program without a cost. As we know, a lot of our rural first-generation students, that is a sticking point for them is cost. Interestingly enough, financing is one of the easiest problems I can solve. And so getting them to connect with the campus and then saying, this is worth it, how do we pay for school, that gives me a much easier conversation. So thank you to our county, and thank you to the Criminal Justice Department and to Miss Amanda Plaizier, who taught 2 English classes in the summer. We are just really appreciative of that. We wanted to start a boot camp, which is pre-algebra, English 1010, and a learning study skill class. I didn't have enough interest in that class to run it this year. So what I've decided to do is, with the students that participated in the criminal justice program, one of them is going to be an ambassador who's straight out of a local high school. That individual will be going with us back to the high schools, helping us figure out how to reach the students who need to be there. We know where to find those interested in criminal justice, where those are, who data analytics, those type of things, they're in our concurrent enrollment classes. But those who don't think college is for them, I need some help in figuring out where they are and how we get them excited about coming to campus in the summer. So the goals that we have is to increase student preparedness and confidence. I was a little discouraged. When we started this program, we only had 5 students that decided to participate. I was a little disappointed. I thought it would be a lot larger number. But at the end of this program, and I'm trying not to get emotional, watching these kids together, they built lasting friendships. The class ended on a Thursday at about 11:30, and at 5 o'clock they were still there together, talking about their futures, talking about the course, talking about how all of this came together. They said to me, you know what, Jen, I talked to my friends that are getting ready to go to campus, wherever that campus might be, as freshmen. We're so much more ready. We're so much more comfortable about getting started in our programs and being on campus and knowing we can talk to faculty and advisors. They had a question about financial aid. We got the answers for them. So they know where that academic support is. They know that we're there for them, and they know that we want them to succeed. And then we're also hoping for local economic growth as this program progresses and grows. So I am going to stop talking and turn it over to those who really put in the work for this, these amazing professors that shared with these students their expertise, their knowledge, and got them so excited about the program and how that all works. So the time is David's.
Well, I'm a lecturer at Blanding, and I can tell you I was so grateful to be able to go to Tooele and just be part of this program just for a handful of weeks. The 5 individuals, all recent high school graduates, very unique. 3 of them, I believe, want to get in directly into law enforcement, whether it's working for Highway Patrol or a local police department or sheriff's department. And 1, I believe, wants to go more the federal route, being an auditor with accounting. And 1 other one was kind of borderline, but man, that one who's borderline really enjoyed the role playing what we did. But I'm going to cover a little bit about hands-on learning, experiential learning. Now, before I get into that, I kind of want to know my audience a little bit. Do you guys watch crime shows? All right. Okay. Who has ever watched Dragnet? I'm really dating myself. Okay. Sergeant Joe Friday, okay? He never really just said just the facts, man. But I grew up with Adam 12, Dragnet, Emergency, Squad 51, going to the paramedic route, Chips. Fortunately, if you're a Highway Patrol, definitely Chips is not a great depiction of what Highway Patrol does. But today's age, everybody's watching the true crime series, CSI. I think Sherlock Holmes was pretty big maybe 10, 15 years ago, but I think Sherlock is literally by the wayside. He was never a police officer, though. He's only an investigator. He never actually had peace officer powers. But just going back to this experiential learning, hands-on, the students really enjoyed this. I was able to do that, and I have some quotes up here. I pulled this off of an AI to give them credit. This has been around for a long time. Confucius, Chinese philosopher. I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. I think most people are that type of learner, me particularly. And in the career of law enforcement or any type of civil service or social service, hands-on is super important. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I will learn. I did mention that in the class to one of the students. He says, well, I do like lectures, though. I do like hearing about your experiences. So there is a part of that. We do have to give them information because they're still young and learning, but doing it is so important. And then John Dewey. I always thought he invented the Dewey Decimal System. Wrong. He's not. He was more of the modern day 20th century hands-on learning. There's an intimate and necessary relation between the process, actual experience, and education. So how did we do this for our criminal investigation class? I have the privilege of teaching this class now. The late Dr. Rachel Walton taught that for many years here, and I just hope I can, I don't even think I can hold a candle to her experience in investigation, but I do have that. So we did this mock scene to expose the kids to some type of chaotic situation, stress inoculation. Most people go through 3 to 5 maybe traumatic situations in their lives, whether it's the death of a loved one, car accident. But being a paramedic, firefighter, or police officer, or deputy sheriff, your exposure to trauma is in the hundreds, what you see. And I kind of wanted to see really how these students respond to a mock scene that we had. And fortunately we had great actors from Tooele. They do like to do a little bit off script and go a little, call their own audibles. But Jason was the writer of this scene that we did, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit further. But I want to thank them for their participation. So I wanted to see really what was in the heart of the students and how they would react. And I prepared them, and as you can see, when I said, hey, you're going to have some people do all this and that, well, no one really actually acted that chaotic, but they did learn to slow things down. And that's so important, because a lot of times people just see things. They don't actually observe. And that's a quote from Sherlock Holmes, because he was obviously the best investigator, even though he's fictitious. But he would see things and then observe. And as you can see, we'll have some proof of their observation skills. We taught them a little bit about emotional intelligence, hearing people, listening to them, being empathetic. As you saw, the one boy in short pants and the red shirt, how he kneeled down and talked to the person who was the victim. I thought that was really, I didn't tell him to do that. He just did that. That's great. Empathetic, listening. People expect their police officers, their deputy sheriffs, their paramedics to be human, to show empathy. And sometimes, traditionally, what you may see on the news, may see on the CSI shows or the law shows or whatever, police officers can be depicted as being insensitive, firm, maybe too stern. But the shows that I watched, Adam 12, they were not necessarily like that. So we did a crash course on the criminal investigations. Really, some of the kids were like, I probably want a little more of this, but they had to know the elements of crime, you know, the thought of the person. I did not do my law enforcement here in Utah, so I had to learn the assault with a deadly weapon with a firearm charge in Utah, the Utah code. And then we had to go through the steps of probable cause. 51% the probability that the person did it. That is a good arrest. But to take it to court, they want 90% of beyond a reasonable doubt. So this scene that they went to, they had to piece things together. Some were able to figure out, okay, yeah, there is enough probable cause. Others didn't figure it out. And then they had to write their reports. So let's go to that next scene. Okay, so in the class, I had 5 students, 2 young men, and 3 young girls. So I teamed them up, male, female, as partners. And then one of the students really wants to get into CSI, and she was my evidence technician. So we sent them out to the Tooele parking lot in the nice new building near the science building for a mock scene. It was a drive-by shooting. It was a love triangle. Your script was straight on. Our actors did it well. But long story short, car pulls up, shots fired, leaves, and we have our victim already treated with first aid. And we did not set up the crime scene tape. I sent them 2 by 2, and they went and they interviewed. The one suspect, we had the scene set up to where there was a shell casing from a 9mm that I found at the Blanding shooting range, a flip-flop, which is mine, that was left at the scene, some drugs too, and a receipt. Well, the suspect in the first scenario comes back. The suspect always comes back because it's chaotic. They do sometimes come back to the scene wearing only one flip-flop. The first group, they saw that she had one flip-flop, but wasn't able to observe that, well, heck, that's the same flip-flop that was left at the scene. That suspect was persistent. I want to get my flip-flop. I want to get my flip-flop. She was like wanting to pick it up. Luckily, no hands were put on her or anything, but they were very direct that she could not pick up the flip-flop. So their observation skills were still in the progressive learning area. They felt that they needed to wait a little longer to where they could have more evidence to make the arrest. This wasn't a perfect scenario because, yes, we could have reviewed video, and they would have seen the car, probably her getting out, doing the thing and all that. My next group that came through, as you saw the boy that had the piece of paper that says you're under arrest, they put 2 and 2 together. I remember seeing his face and his eyes. Okay, that flip-flop looks exactly like that flip-flop. Okay, drive-by shooting, rounds are here. Somebody left their flip-flop, probably the shooter. Oh my goodness, I think we have the shooter here. And so then they were able to realize, okay, we need to detain this person for further investigation. So that's when I then had our evidence technician come. She wore the white, hazmat suit, She really liked that. We had the photographers there taking pictures for her. And then she did a search of the area. We decided, with my help, to set up a scene. We always want to go big. And we set up a normal scene, and she did a grid search. And in there, she found the 9mm casing, which one of the groups never even saw. Okay, they were looking, but they didn't observe. Somehow she articulated this as being evidence, but I think it's a expended firework. There was a cell phone located too, but she missed something, and this is Epsom salt depicting ice meth. Okay, and she missed this in the bushes. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It was a drive-by shooting, right?
Yes.
And she had one flip-flop?
Yes.
How'd the flip-flop get on the street?
Exited the car.
So she got out of the car, sorry.
Yeah.
Not out the window.
Well, out the window and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, yeah, you're a good detective.
The students should have asked.
Yes,
They
yeah,
didn't put it
yeah.
together, they weren't thinking.
Yes. Okay, I like that. You're a good detective. So, and there was numerous shots fired. That's how the call came out. But we only have one shell casing on the ground, which means shots were probably fired from inside the car. Casings are in the car. Okay, where's the car? When you get video surveillance, hopefully it picks up the license plate. You run the license plate. Oh my goodness, it comes back to here. You go back to the warrants. Okay.
You don't need to take the program next
Yeah.
time. Right.
All righty. All right, I love it. Okay. So anyways, you know what? I got to speed on. But anyways, I taught police report writing is very different than English. Okay. First person past tense, and it can drive some English teachers nuts. But anyways, clear, concise, complete, and correct. No jargon. You know, being very, very simple about it. Some of the kids had a little hard time about writing so simplistic. They were complete somewhat, but we still had more evidence to do, like the video retrieval and things like that. And then obviously correct. Don't form your own bias. And I think they did perfect on that. And then they got to defend that to you when they presented the case. So I think I'm good with that. I think we're good on slides. All righty. So that's all I have. It was a great time. We had a good time.
And then Amanda's going to talk to, so to give everybody an idea here, this program had 3 separate courses we taught as part.
Oh, yeah. Here, let me steal that from you. Yeah, so the program had 3 separate courses that we taught, all as one joined thing. We had the investigations course that David taught, English course that Amanda taught, and then I taught the courtroom course at the end of it. And so Amanda's going to talk to us about why we did it that way, what's the purpose of putting it together the way that we did, and what was our goal in doing so.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Awesome. Get this out of my pocket. All right. Yeah, so aside from teaching some writing classes in the jail, and watching a lot of crime dramas and reading Agatha Christie, I was like, how do I prepare to teach this class? What an interesting, unique opportunity, though, to teach professional, technical and professional writing through the lens of criminal justice. Having those students all focused in one subject area really made our class discussions made some connections, because I knew what they were doing in the other classes. I knew they were writing their investigative reports and preparing for their mock trials, and they knew that as well. They knew that I knew that they knew. And so they brought a lot of it into the classroom. And I was teasing them, I'll have to keep track of all the times they were quoted, and I don't know if they were accurate quoting, but I learned to end class a little bit early because they had so much to tell me every time. Guess what happened with and they quoted from the mock trial, and they talked to me about report writing. So what a unique opportunity as they're developing their schema of what technical and professional communication is, what that looks like, how purpose-driven and audience-driven that writing needs to be, and no longer academic-based writing, but this is in a different space. They were also building those schemas of investigative reporting and preparing for this trial. So those 2 things were developing at the same time, and they started making these intersections. And so it was really fun to see that. The first section of our, and I kind of follow my slides, but it's my fault because I was a bad student and got my ideas in late. It really helped them. I think at first we had a student who's coming up to Logan, who's not staying at Tooele after this, and he was kind of like, yeah, I'm going off to Logan, and the rest of you just be here. By the end of the semester, he even mentioned it in front of me several times. He said things like, I feel like I'm missing out. You guys just get to be together still, and I have to leave. So it really did build a cohesive group. But inevitably, the first question on the first day, right? Why do I need to take English if I'm going to be a cop? Why do I need to take English if I'm going? And I love that question because I'll say, yeah, you'll find out, won't you? And the best way to have them find that out is to, not for me to tell them, but for them to talk to people in the field and hear that from their mouths. That let's see, one of the quotes was, 90% of my job is writing. And they came to me and like, oh, I guess I understand this now. So for the first unit of our class, I split mine up into 3 sections, and theirs was the first half and second half of that block, and I took the full block. So I kind of tried to correlate what they were doing. The first unit we did was trying to figure out what communication looks like in my field. What does verbal and nonverbal communication look like? What does writing look like? What type of writing will I be doing? And so I had each student go out and locate someone in a position that they thought was interesting within the field of criminal justice. We had someone find a retired law enforcement officer. We had several go to the police department and find detectives to talk to. We had a corrections officer interview. We had one student, I hope I'm allowed to say this, one student go, and he was so proud of it. He did his interview at the gym while lifting weights. And I got to tell you, the corrections officer, I know her, that he was working with, she could take anyone. I mean, and she's only about this tall, but she's mighty, and I could see her in the gym. He's like, yeah, I was trying to keep up with her lifting, and I was interviewing her, and she was talking, and she was lifting. They really built this connection, and in our small town, I find that, oh, man, they really wanted to reach out to these students. They really wanted to give them information that was relevant. So they're finding out how communication works here, and at the same time in our class, we're reviewing things like, and because I don't normally write in first-person passive voice. It goes against all of my instincts in academic writing, but we talked about what's the difference between active and passive voice, and why are we using passive voice here in our investigative reports? Oh, here's why. What's the difference in these tenses, and why does this matter? Why do we need to use plain language? Why do we need to be concise in our language? And they started to realize, oh, I have to be able to reach a different set of audiences, and in professional communication, it's very audience and process driven, purpose driven, and so I didn't really have to teach that as much as show them, and then they took off with it and said, oh, that's why he's making us write this way. Okay. And let's see. And that helped feed into their investigative report. The next thing we did, I'm sorry if these don't go with it. Go with it. My students are probably always frustrated on the tangents. Our next unit, we talked then about ethics. Ethics within your field of criminal justice, which again, I was trying to learn myself. So I had them examine what those core principles were in 2 documents. We took the American Bar Association and the IACP is Chief of Police. What is that stand? IACP?
International Association of Chiefs of Police.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So we had them. I had them look for the core principles in both of the ethical statements from both of those organizations, compare it and contrast them, and then if that's evidence, then really what does that tell me about that organization and what they value? And they're starting to put that together with the people that they talk to. They kept going back to their interview subjects over and over again. Yeah, that makes sense. So we looked at things like, I shouldn't take too much time, right? We looked at things like the choices in our words, our punctuation, our sentence syntax, the way we put our sentences together, how all of that affects the tone of what we're writing, the tone of what we're saying, that those small choices matter in our writing. And they started to realize that if my core values need to represent this, need to represent open, objective, yet authoritative, but open communication and listening, active listening needs to be a part of what I'm doing as a law enforcement officer, then how do I incorporate that in my writing? We looked at some failed attempts, perhaps, and we looked at the Challenger, infamous Challenger memo, right? You mean the O-ring memo from the Challenger explosion, and how because vital information was placed in the middle of a document, it wasn't considered vital information. Okay, so where do we place our information matters. Little things like that. We looked at some German World War II memos. The way we characterize people, the way we label people matters in our writing. So as we talked about those things, they're preparing for their mock trial. They're giving me after class all the details about what they're doing. This idea kept coming up over and over again. They kept mentioning things like, our actions really communicate our ethics, our values, right? So when we're out there and we're talking to people, that really matters. What we say matters just as much as what we're writing. Yeah. I mean, it was great when they came to those conclusions. We finished up this output of the class. It was really important for me that they capitalize on what they learned in the summer, that they were able to say, I got this scholarship for this summer program, I wrote investigative reports, I participated in this mock trial, I did professional writing, and while it's still fresh in their brains, how do we translate that into job application materials? So we did do work on cover letters and resumes, specifically attuned to some job postings that weren't too far in their future, and really highlighted that in their growing resume so that we could go, these were new high school graduates. So you could take, instead of, I work at the grocery store, or I had a paper route, instead they have relevant experience in the field that they could put in their resumes. They could say, I've learned these skills in this coursework. This was preparing me for this position, and a lot of them again went right back to those interview memos, wanting to work in that same field as whoever they'd interviewed. They knew what was expected. A couple of things as then to close up my part is, as we were, I had them create a final graphic, and I just said, what is TechCom? What does that look like for you in the field of criminal justice? Create some type of graphic. And I'm still in the process of getting approval to share that, to collect my data, because this is just going on. We just finished finals. Some things that came to my mind, these visuals, and I'm going to have to, make sure that they see these. These visuals encapsulated what they were learning in the other two classes. It was amazing. These visuals said things like, justice depends on the right words, on using the right words. That it's a process. I had them map out, as if it was a process. They talked about things like precise communication, being an active listener, because that was part of our ethics, our core principles within this field are to, we need to be listening to our audience, whether that's a vulnerable population, we're dealing with inmates, whether it's a victim of a crime, whether we're dealing with other parts of the public. It's our responsibility to communicate clearly, accurately, use plain language. They talked about even when they're editing. One student wants to be a correctional officer. We got in the discussion of editing inmate files and saying, well, I really hold a lot of power here, because how I report their behavior, how I report a conflict could determine what happens to this person. That's a lot of responsibility. So they started seeing that social responsibility come through. I don't know if these are quotes from YouTube, but they kept saying things like, misreporting is not justice, policing requires clear communication or there's no justice. They kept tying in the concept of justice to how they were communicating. But I think it was really interesting for them to talk about they saw the consequences of these mistakes in their mock trial. And I got the feeling that Jason didn't hold back when they were making these mistakes, and so that was fun to hear about. But overall, I think it was a lot more inclusive of a conversation, because they were able to take everything they're learning at once and blend it together. So, okay, Jason.
Thank you. All right, so I just want to wrap up on sort of the benefits of this program and things we would do different.
The hope is by sharing this, I know we've shared how we did our program, why we did our program, how we secured funding, etc. The idea is, yay, good job you guys. What does that do for me, right? We wanted to share that to give everyone ideas of what we did and why, to see, get everyone thinking what they could do and what might be possible. So we did want to share what the benefits were. As we mentioned, we had students learn how to investigate a crime. They had to investigate the crime. They learned how to write the police report. Then they wrote a sample police report. Then they had to come and defend that police report in a courtroom setting where, as was accurately depicted, I ripped them a new hole, okay? Because they better to do it now than when they're out on the job, right? So yeah, we do that. And the idea was we wanted to see how it all, get them to see how it all fit together, get them involved, let them see how their general education fits with their overall education. Why do I have to take all these classes, as was mentioned, right? So the question is, did that actually happen? Did the benefits we expected to happen occur? Short answer is many of them yes, right? We were able to enhance the understanding by doing the experience, making them do the hands-on investigation, making them defend it in court, etc. We were able to help them see how everything fit together. As Amanda mentioned, they were mentioning things from all these different classes, pulling the ideas together. So in an English class, they can see, well, why do I have to take English? Now I know, because if I don't do what's taught here, I'm going to mess up in my job. All right? So we hopefully got that across. It seems like from their comments we did. And then increasing student confidence. Did they feel better prepared to do college afterward? Because these are all freshmen, right, straight out of high school. And did they feel more confident afterward? Yes. Jenn mentioned a bit, right? After this was all done, they hung around, talked with each other. The feedback we're getting from them and their reflection assignments and things like that, they seem more involved in campus life. We have one who wants to be an ambassador to help promote this program. We have our first honors student at the campus who is part of this program who wants to be involved. Students who are coming up to Logan saying, gee, maybe I want to stay here at my local campus, right? They felt involved and felt better prepared. And so we feel like we were able to achieve those things. So the big thing is, well, what would we do different? What are the problems you might face if you're thinking in your mind, how might I do something similar for my discipline? How could I take this and involve maybe English or math or some of these other gen ed requirements to help students see how it all fits together? Here's some of the big issues we had. Scheduling is horrendous because we are trying to catch people right out of high school. And because high school doesn't end until our summer semester starts. And so one of the big problems we ran into is we had to, of a necessity, schedule this program in the second 7-week session of summer. So we had to take everything we wanted to teach them and cram it into 7 weeks. It got even more ridiculous than that, the way that we did it, and this is partly my fault. We decided, since, investigation is first, courtroom is second, David ended up teaching all his stuff, like super condensed in the first 3 weeks, double duty, and then I did all the courtroom stuff double duty in the last sort of 3 weeks there, which was, I think the legal word for that is hellacious. There is just too much to try and squish in a 3-week period to get especially incoming freshmen just like digest it all. For my class, it's normally a 4,000 level class that we are teaching to them, and that just got to be a bit much, right? I say that's my fault. Part of that is because I was doing a study abroad during the first part of the semester anyway, so of necessity, we sort of had to stagger it that way. If we were to do it again, I do not think we would do that. The students said as much. It was too condensed. I need some time to let it, I say marinate, right? Sit in it a bit, get used to the ideas instead of trying to just cram it through sequentially. So, but that reality of school year starting, summer semester starting after the school year for high school ends, something to have to consider if you're putting one of these programs together. We had to do it in a 7-week session. There might be some creative ways to get around it, right? You just do it as a 14-week, but you don't actually start to the 3rd week and, go from there. I don't know that there aren't ways around it, but there's something to consider as you're putting these together. One of the other issues Jenn had mentioned is enrollment, right? We want students to be excited about this, as excited as we were. The students that went to it certainly were at the end of it. So how do we try and translate that into better enrollment up front? I know one of the big things that we had talked about wanting to emphasize more, and this was something that we were able to do, was get some local funding to pay for students' college, right? If you start the first line on your flyer, free college, 9 credits, that's going to go a lot better than, hey, who wants to be an investigator, right? I mean, I think my field is awesome and amazing, but free college is always better. So, you know, leading a bit with some different ideas there. And now, once you get the momentum going, getting that moving, we think would be helpful as well, okay? But that's really where we were at. That was our goal. We think, I think on the whole, with all the benefits, we achieved what we wanted to achieve. About the only thing we didn't achieve is having as many people do it up front as we were hoping. Right now, this last year, if I understood correctly, we had 100 concurrent enrollment students focusing on CJ courses in our county. And so, you know, some of those are juniors, some of those are sophomores, not all of them are graduating, and some of that 100 number is probably people taking multiple courses, right? I realize that. So I know, you know, it shouldn't be 33 people coming out that we'd hope all to get in there, but a few more than 5 we were hoping. So word of mouth, we're hoping to build it up and all of that. But it is we achieved what we wanted to, and we think that at other campuses, and even at ours with different programs, it could succeed as well. We just wanted to share our experience, so that's hopefully helpful. That's really all we have, and we only have a couple minutes. So please ask any and all questions you have about this, and any of us who have pertinent information will try and answer.
I know it's a small sample size, but with the 5, are they all enrolled in the fall in Utah State now?
I think one is like Snow, which is like, you know, yeah, Utah State, but not quite.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
She's questioning whether she wants to go to Snow, but
she always probably wanted to, I did.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, the others are enrolled. As was mentioned, not all necessarily at our campus, some come to the main campus, but yeah, we have them that way. So, any other questions for us?
It's one I just came up with. Don't need to ask another one.
Oh no, go ahead.
If it was condensed and over the summer, trying to get high school students that are getting ready for college. Nobody wants summer school when you're, you know, you're. Do you think something like this would be feasible for students that might be going into a certain area, that you combine the classes where you say, hey, take English at this time and take this English class, and actually do it over a semester, where in your case, the CJ students, you'd have 20 of them that would take an English, a courtroom, and an investigations class all together.
Like say in the fall semester?
Fall semester, okay. And then be able to do something similar where it's...
I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. The only thing that you would run into that might be logistically an issue that I could foresee. We did this together, so we had sort of a cohort where they're all doing the same together. They're all there in Tooele, so they could get to know each other, so they had sort of that community, and we want to stay with that. If we were to do that into the fall, and our enrollment is like 5 for each of those classes, then that's going to be rough, right? These are classes that, you know, we all teach normally in other contexts, like the courtroom communications class I told you. But
could these classes still be combined, like the English be designed to run at a certain time for the CJ students, where you still have that, but it's not...
If we had enough enrollment.
Yeah.
If we had 20 or 25,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
But we couldn't, with the support of the only reason we were able to do it with 5 was the support of the county.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if anybody went to the session right before this one with Beth from the English department that's talking about, you know, future of English education here at Utah State. But we've sort of been working with her on this, and the idea is, yeah, like we probably have enough CJ students that we would justify a whole section in a fall semester of, you know, English 2020 being taught with a CJ focus. So yeah, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility, just logistically maybe a little more tricky.
I also wonder if there's an opportunity to somehow collaborate with our social work students in like almost like a debriefing type of component where they get to maybe practice some of their clinical skills with your students kind of after the simulation to be able to kind of demonstrate what that looks like also.
We would absolutely love to do that, right? Yeah, we thought about that. I can't remember who exactly I was talking to this about within social work, but yeah, if you know you've got victim services that works in the courtroom setting where you have to sit with, say, a mock victim and explain to them what's going on in the courtroom process as it's going on, things like that.